Welcome to the Profits on Purpose podcast, where we explore the journeys of purpose-driven founders and the financial strategies that have helped them survive and thrive. I'm your host, Nate Littlewood. Our guest today is Andrew Arbogast, who's the founder of Arbo's Source. Andrew spent best part of a decade flying Apache helicopters in Iraq and Afghanistan before transitioning to the corporate world. But in 2021, he left a promising career in corporate America and, using his father's decades-old cheese dip recipe, launched Arbo's with a mission to share a taste of home while supporting veteran causes. Since then, he's navigated explosive growth, supply chain chaos, cash flow crises, going from sole operator to now managing a full-scale CPG business. We're going to be digging deep into the lessons he's learned about resilience, knowing your numbers, and staying true to your purpose when the pressure mounts. Andrew, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Nate, thank you so much. I appreciate the intro. It as soon as I hear it, it's like I start reflecting back to day one in 2021 and how things have changed since then. But excited to be able to talk with you and your audience today.
Of course, and I guess that that day in 2021 is probably a good place for us to start off the story here. I understand that Arbo's was born out of your father's decades-old recipe. Can you maybe take us back to some of those early memories with your dad, and what did making and sharing this dip mean to your family? And I guess how has his influence kind of helped shape and mold the business that Arbo's is today?
Oh man, it starts with home and community and what we did growing up. And I didn't live. Being from Memphis, I grew up here in Memphis, but I left for boarding school, which was high school, at the age of 14, and then college away, military. So I was gone for all of 20 years. But what kept me like just inspired and I guess it kept me from being homesick was food. And food was always a part of our lives. My dad cooked a lot. He taught me how to cook. And then, when I'd come home from high school or college, it's like he would always have his cheese dip in the fridge. And it's so good when it's cold. Like we would just take it out and destroy a bag of chips within, it felt like 10 minutes. But this recipe was handed down from actually my grandmother, his mother-in-law, right? And so
Hmm.
every time we had a community function or friends and family function, I remember Sunday suppers being a big thing. It's like we always had a requirement or delegated dish to bring, but the cheese dip was always expected no matter what, right? So
Hmm.
it was just like this dip to me back then that brought everyone together. And then little did I know, one year in Afghanistan of serving, fancy meats and cheeses, that this inspiration would come back to life and take over basically my mission, my purpose, and my fulfillment.
Interesting. So I get the sense from you that, food and gathering around food was a really kind of important part of the environment in which you grew up in. And that you're also, a bit of an amateur chef. But from what I understand, it was around the time of 9/11 that you decided to, take a somewhat different career and go work in the Air Force. How have those two very, very different worlds kind of integrated into being, the business owner and the leader that you are today?
Oh man, it's so interesting. So I was Army aviation, and when I was going through college, which was Army ROTC at the time, basically training as a cadet to go into active duty, my college major was food service
Hmm.
management.
Okay.
And but I was also inspired by the events of 9/11, and so I said, well, I'd like to serve my country. Plus there's some added bonus of knowing I'm going to have a guaranteed job right out of college, at least for 4 years. And so I thought, well, let me do both. Well, the Army kind of had their own way of directing things and said, maybe you should not do food service and you should focus on something like political science or even business. And so I felt like I was persuaded, and I could have really stood my ground and kept it, but therein lies like one of the things throughout my life that I just became victim to. It's doing what other people tell me or expect of me. And I carried
Mm-hmm.
that that whole um, vision or expectation for the rest of my life until I started this
Mm-hmm.
business. Especially
Mm-hmm.
when I started this business, because people are like, "Don't do it. Don't quit your day job. This isn't as easy as you think it is." But so I finally made a decision. I'm like, I'm done towing the line and living the way others expect me to live. But the whole leadership aspect of the military and, how I incorporated food into that, I never thought that I would end up being a chef. Even though that was like my youngest childhood dream was like, I want to be a chef. I want to go to culinary school and I want to run restaurants and all these things. And but Army was it. And I ended up doing
Mm-hmm.
this aviation piece. So it's like, all right, not only are you going to the Army, now you're going to flight school. You're going to learn how to fly helicopters, but you're also
Mm-hmm.
going to be a leader. You're going to be a commander and be responsible for the health and welfare of 40 soldiers while deployed in combat. And so it was a
Mm-hmm.
significant weight that I carried with that. And one of the things that I used to improve the morale of my soldiers and pilots was food. I mean, I was always like buying all this food or having my family ship me food so that we could break bread on, sitting down and briefing before a mission with the other pilots, and just that was my one way of giving, and it felt so good, and it was like it brought
Mm-hmm.
people together. And that's where I didn't know it at that time in 2014 when we were in
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan that this would actually be my life, but
Mm-hmm.
that's where it all kind of started,
Mm-hmm.
the ideas, for so to say.
Interesting. And post the army, you spent a few years in, let's say, corporate America. But why were you not happy there? Why didn't you settle down there? What was the pull that kind of drew you from that into the world of entrepreneurship?
I think my in my mind, my thought was I want someone to tell me what to do because I'm leaving the
Right.
army. I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily want to go fly helicopters anymore, but I do need to provide for my family. I had young twins in 2017 when it was time for me to transition out of the military. We're in Savannah, Georgia. Our home is back in Memphis. We're just isolated. But my thought was, well, let me just put myself out there. And if corporate America is the right fit, I'll go that route.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if FBI is the right fit, I'll go that route. I did
Mm-hmm.
everything, all the preparing, planning for what is next. And thankfully, I get the attention of international paper here in Memphis. And that was great because it's like, okay, now I'm going to have a six-figure salary. I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'm going to be so happy. We're going to be able to move back home, close to
Yeah.
friends and family. And it was that
Mm-hmm.
until it wasn't one day. And I blame COVID, right? Like that was the isolation that I didn't realize like how bad I was and how bad of shape I was in
Mm-hmm.
mentally. And I had this beautiful family. My wife's pregnant with our third child, and it's like I have everything that people would want, and I'm not happy. And I think it was that identity loss of leaving the military and becoming just another cog in the wheel in a corporate cubicle, and it
Right.
drove me freaking insane.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I just start talking about it. I'm like, man, I'm not happy. I need to figure this out. And I'm sitting around a campfire with some friends when it was real snowy and cold. Campfire, it was in my backyard. We were all talking about it, and one of them said, man, you should try selling your dad's cheese dip.
Oh wow.
And it was instant, Nate. It was instant. I I went to sleep that night thinking about it. I woke up the next morning thinking about it. I told one other person, they're like, go listen to this podcast, Guy Young, How I Built This. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like the
Yeah.
chicken salad chick story and what she
Uh-huh.
went through. And that's all I needed. I needed
Mm-hmm.
hope. I needed a glimpse of hope and believing in myself and hearing what she went through and what she endured to create a
Mm-hmm.
multi-million dollar business. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't about the money, it was about purpose and what I was trying to achieve in my life and demonstrate to my kids at the same time, like, hey,
Mm.
we're not, I can't sit here and tell you you can be whatever you want to be as long as you try. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm not living that same lifestyle, that same model. So it was so many things. It was proving to myself that I could do it. It was proving to others that I could do this. But then, of course, as soon as like you start inching forward,
Mm-hmm.
there's the wall of like, hey, we didn't think you were serious, or I
Mm-hmm.
thought you were joking. Don't quit your day job.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't happen this way. I would like run the other way is what a lot of people told me.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, if I knew now
Mm-hmm.
what I didn't know then, I probably wouldn't have started this company. But
Yeah.
because I was naive and young in this, I thought, yeah, hey, man, if I can go do all these crazy things in my life that I've done before, how could this be so hard? And
Mm-hmm.
so that day, that night, that morning, that's where it all began. That was November of 2020, and then I'd started the LLC December 31st, 2020, because I wanted it to look like I'd been in business for a full year when 21 comes around. So
All right.
yeah.
Nice. Wow. Well, it sounds like a brilliant insight, and I'm glad that whatever it was you listened to, maybe we'll include a link to that in the show notes, that episode. Can you just say it again?
It was Guy Young, How I Built This. That's his
Guy
podcast.
Ros? Guy
I'm
Ros?
sorry, Guy
Guy
Raz.
Ros, yeah.
Yes,
Uh-huh. How I Built
yeah,
This.
yes.
And the specific episode, was it? Or
Was the chicken salad chick.
okay.
So she's got chains all over the South, and
Okay.
she has an incredible story. It's
Okay.
worth listening to.
All right, all right. Okay, so you launched this business not too far into COVID, and I understand that you were initially basically, a one-man show, handling everything from sales, production, logistics, and accounting. I'd love to understand what that experience was like for you, particularly in light of the comments you mentioned earlier, where, in the army, you were used to tell people telling you what to do all the time. Suddenly, in the seat as an entrepreneur and founder, and probably far less people telling you what to do. Talk me through that transition. What were some of the challenges that you encountered at the time? Did you look for help? If so, what were some of the most helpful sources of support and guidance that you found? I'd love to learn a little bit more about that transition for you.
Man, that is such a great question, Nate, and it's so loaded that I'm going to try to pick apart like what are the most eh, critical things that throughout this process I went through that were make or break, right? So, um, the idea it's like the first thing I have to do is bring it up to my wife, right? And I did. I brought it up kind of in like a hey, thinking about like doing this side hustle thing of selling dad's cheese dip. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool." I think she thought maybe it was just going to be another fad for me because I would
Mm,
start and stop things all the time. The brand new, $1,000 mountain bike that was outside had only been ridden twice, right? Another one of
mhm,
those things.
mhm,
And and so when I continued to bring it up and actually started doing like R&D, and what I mean by that is, okay, well, I know how to make this recipe based on these store-bought ingredients. I know it like the back of my hand. But what happens when you double it or when you
mhm,
triple it? And before you know it, like I'm buying all of these large pots and pans from Target and Walmart. And I'm like cooking this stuff in my kitchen. And then I have all this product. I'm like, okay, I think it's time to actually start getting people to try this and test it and give me feedback. I had
mhm,
everyone from like the house cleaners coming in, who they didn't speak English, and I'm like giving them a blind taste test. I have two other competitor products next to mine, and I'm like, will you try them and tell me which one you like the most?
uh-huh,
And all four of them like did this hand signal to my dad's. And I was like, boom. Next one was the FedEx guy. Next one was my buddy who's an successful entrepreneur living in Missouri. I told him he has like 7 kids. They did it. Every single one of them picked dads. And so at
mm,
that point, I'm like, I know this is good. This isn't a matter of, do I think this product's good? Should I start it? It's like, no, this is good. Figure out how to get it in a container, figure out how to get a barcode, an ingredient declaration, the nutrition facts, make it look, I wanted to make it look like it was not first sold at farmer's market.
Right. Right.
Wanted people to take me seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the underground piece. It's like I was only a few people knew I was doing this. And so eventually I'm like, I get a logo. My buddy, like I said, the entrepreneur, his graphic designer creates me a logo and it's
Mm-hmm.
really Memphis themed. And like out of nowhere, I create this Instagram page called Arbo's Dip and I start selling it off my doorstep, like
Wow.
cranking it out.
Okay.
It spreads like wildfire. The Memphis community is small in perspective, and it's like people kept hearing about it. Before you know it, like I buy this $1,000 branded tent and I'm doing these pop-ups at local breweries and festivals, and like I am hustling. And
Mm.
I'm cooking until 1 or 2 in the morning,
Wow.
still in my house, and
Yeah.
I'm getting this stuff out there. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what about my real job? I,
Yeah.
I can't give everything to both. And that's where the serious conversations really started taking place of like, hey, was this just a fun little pop-up thing and you're not quitting your job? And I'm like, no, I'm quitting it. I'm ready to quit it right now. Thankfully I didn't.
So how did you know was when was the right time to quit?
It wasn't a financial decision,
Mm.
Nate.
Mm-hmm.
I was self-funding all of this, and of course
Yeah.
the profits I made from selling the cheese dip was going right
Mm-hmm.
back into buying containers and labels and those
Yeah.
sorts of things. But um, I think that decision was really like, if I'm going to do this, I have to stay relevant. I have to be consistent. I
Mm.
can't lose my job. My wife works, but it's a double
Mm-hmm.
income. We've got kids in private school, and so it was like, all right,
Right.
now I'm going to have to figure out how to expand and how to scale. So
Yeah.
entertain this friends and family investment. And I have, friends and family that all invest basically to say, hey, we can cover your salary for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Will that give you enough time? And I'm like, that is a miracle in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to quit right away and go
Yeah.
all in, but obviously, so it was like by August of 2021, eight
Mm-hmm.
months into doing this, I quit and I'm in distribution. And we
Mm-hmm.
go from like, selling it at a couple of local grocery stores to 250. And I
Wow.
thought
Okay.
I had won, but nightmare. You know how I said I wasn't listening to anybody because I needed
Mm.
to believe in myself? Well,
Mm-hmm.
there was a period where I should have started listening to people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was scale so rapidly that, I mean, not only this isn't the first time I almost lost my business, this is one of several times, right? But
Mm-hmm.
my thought was, well, just because it sells so well locally, sells out. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
restock it quick enough.
Right.
I just assumed it would work the same in rural Tennessee, in
Mm-hmm.
Nashville. I
Mm.
just assumed if I got it on the shelf, it would fly off.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did it not, I only had a 40-day shelf life because I didn't spend the time to really think
Mm.
through the logistics, the distribution. So I found a co-packer, someone to make it for me, right, out of
Yeah.
Mississippi. So I give them the order, they make it. Well, it's going to sit there for a week until it gets picked up. Now I'm left with
Yeah.
33 days. Then it goes to
Yeah.
the warehouse, and then the
Mm.
stores have to order it. And by the time it reaches the stores, it's got 10 days. And
Yeah.
the first big financial hit was like, hey, we're throwing away a pallet of cheese dip. We're not going to pay you for the $4,000 order that we received. And I'm like, in what world is this ethical? That was my thought,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, what do you mean you don't pay for it? Like you agreed, you bought it from me. It's like me
Yeah.
ordering, I thought it's like me ordering from Chick-fil-A, getting a full meal and like taking a bite and then going back and saying, hey, I don't need this anymore because it's room temp. Like they're not
Mm.
going to take it back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
why does it
Mm-hmm.
work that way here? And that was one of the
Mm.
biggest lessons I learned early on. I was taking a pause, Nate, but I'm like, let's go. So now I'm 1 year into like co-packing and distributing, right?
Right.
and and I've been banging on the door one of our major chains, and just like begging to get in, and they're like, yes, we're ready to go, or we're finally going to talk to you. And it was like, all right, well, now I'm going from one flavor to three. The
Hmm.
two more added a spicy and then like a queso blanco, a white version that I created in my kitchen while I'm doing all of this stuff myself. And we start manufacturing for this new launch. We get 100 stores, and then almost immediately the product is bad. And I
Oh.
don't mean like all of it. It was onesies, twosies, but as I was getting, these customer emails saying that their product tasted sour, or they had
Oof.
uh, discovered that there may have been mold in it. Well,
Hmm.
so much happens in the
Mm.
process of manufacturing,
Yeah.
distribution, on the shelf. Once it gets home, did they forget to put it
Hmm.
in the fridge? And it's like,
Hmm.
so where do you investigate? But the consistent the consistency was it was the consistency of the feedback I was getting was the problem. I'm like, I think we have a manufacturing issue. And so I go and like we go through everything. We add new preservatives, thinking, all right, that'll solve the problem. Well, it doesn't, right? And now, like I said, to me at this point, I'm like, I'm going to lose my business because I've lost control. I gave away the recipe, and this was the risk I was willing to take, but now I'm dealing with the consequences of if I'm not there overseeing the operation, it's
Hmm.
one of those things that you're taking a big risk. And I couldn't go to Mississippi every day to watch them manufacture it. But so that starts to happen. I leave that co-packer immediately, and we get a new one in Memphis. And a new challenge begins because now it's the minimums went from like, you know, 3 cases to 200 cases.
Wow, that's a big step up.
Major step up.
Yeah.
But I believed that I could reach that minimum
Yeah.
and convince them to bring me on.
Yeah.
And so by this time it's like 2023, and I land. So I'm in Kroger at this point. Things are
Hmm.
going well. I land Publix, Harris Teeter, Walmart, and Schnucks all within
Hmm.
60 days.
Wow.
Everyone in this industry, the experts were like, you don't want to do that all at once. And I'm like, no. How are you going to tell me that I don't want to do that? Like, because I have this opportunity in my mind. I'm like, oh, why wouldn't it work? Even though the same mistake was already made, right? So I grew
Yeah.
from like 3 states to 20 overnight.
Wow. Okay.
And then I lost 10 states overnight.
Hmm.
Our product gets in Delaware. I've never even been to Delaware. Why would anyone buy it? So I spread myself out so far finally, just because I
Hmm.
had the capacity to make it. I thought,
Hmm.
well, it should work this time because we've got new
Hmm.
branding, new labeling, new messaging. I'm going to take another chance or another shot at this, and it'll work this time. And it
Hmm.
freaking didn't, man.
Yeah.
And so I almost lost my business again because every
Hmm.
dollar I made, Nate, I flooded Instagram, Facebook, Hulu TV ads, YouTube. I
Yeah.
spent it all to try to aggressively market this product, and it
Ouch.
didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Ouch. 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 Well, I guess on the positive side, they say, and I'm a big believer in I'm a big believer in the, what am I trying to say here? I'm a big believer in the idea that mistakes are incredibly powerful learning experiences. And it sounds like you had your share of them earlier on. And I gather that you're probably a much better founder and operator today than you were back then. I think, as you know, I'm a fractional CFO, and a lot of what I do is working with early stage founders and helping them build, financial roadmaps for their companies. I'm curious how your perspective on seeking advice and support from professionals, coaches, mentors, consultants, whoever, like how has your attitude towards that changed over the last few years?
I've always relied on other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I, I can sit here and say I'm a self-starter. Absolutely not. I am the only employee still of Arbo's Cheese Dip, and we've been around
Mm-hmm.
for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have taken so much knowledge from people that were willing to give it to me out of the kindness of their hearts because they believed in me,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was, them giving back to a veteran. I, I've received so much mentorship along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, paid for it because I
Yeah.
believe in paying for a product you receive, a service
Mm-hmm.
you receive, especially when it provides value.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been very open to different ways of learning, or not just different ways of learning, but different ways of attacking these challenges. I think more, if you looked at the first 4 years, Nate, margin was my problem. It was all margin. I was giving it away. I was literally not just giving it away. I was paying them to take my product. So the whole volume game, like, hey, the more you sell, more profit, more money you make. I'm like, not when you are giving it away. It's going to sink your ship faster.
Yeah.
So if I can
Yeah.
think about hundreds of thousands of dollars I lost
Mm-hmm.
because I was off by like 5 cents. It is
Yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah. Small mistakes can add up very quickly when you're talking about big, big volumes, huh?
Yes, and I
Yeah.
don't claim to be a math guy,
Right.
and so I tend to surround myself with people that keep me out of trouble now.
Yeah.
It's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And what I mean by that is, like, I stopped saying yes to big
Mm-hmm.
names
Mm-hmm.
just because it was my ego telling me
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, you got to do that. That's going to be so great for Arbos, and you're going to be so accomplished. You've
Mm-hmm.
proven everyone wrong that you can, get into these big name stores. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what does it matter when you don't have a business anymore? And
Yeah.
so last year was the worst year of my life in terms of mental, physical, emotional. Everything was so bad. But then
Mm.
someone took a chance on me. And instead of me losing my business, someone came in and said, "We got you." So
Mm-hmm.
it gave me just a new opportunity to go and not only like learn from everything that I've done, but be successful. This doesn't come
Yeah.
overnight. I thought
Mm-hmm.
it did, but reset my expectations. What an amazing from 35 to 40, how
Mm-hmm.
much I've learned. So
Can you tell us a little bit more about the deal or transaction that happened last year, and what does that mean today in terms of the ownership of the business and, how it's financed?
so it starts with, it's two things. Like, what was the devastating impact that got me to that point?
Mm-hmm.
And then where was the redemption?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to name retailer names by any means, but it's almost like I'm getting these orders that were like for truckloads, Nate.
Mm-hmm.
I went from like my largest PO being 25 grand to $300,000.
Wow. That's a big
Yeah,
step up.
it was huge. It was huge. And I literally thought, like, I'd made it. I was like, I don't need Shark Tank anymore. I've been
Mm.
constantly submitting my applications to Shark Tank, and I'm like, we made it. Well, I've got a shelf life of 120 days. And so all that money I received from that large PO, I'd already like spent. I didn't set any aside for a rainy day fund. I'm not buying a Ferrari or anything, but what I'm doing is marketing, advertising, all these ads, all the promos. I'm giving up so much money by doing BOGOs
Mhm.
because that's what is expected of me. I'm like, okay, well, if I do the BOGO, but it'll all work out.
Mhm.
And then that $300,000 order reaches its 120-day shelf life, right?
Mhm.
And then there were more orders in between. Wasn't getting paid for those subsequent orders. And I start
Right.
asking, I'm like, hey, we're past the net 30 payment terms. Well, we don't pay you when you owe us money. And I'm like, how much money? You owe us 75 grand. They,
What?
they're like, yeah, we had to throw away that product. I'm like, well, why did you order that much? Or, what? I had so many questions. Like, surely
Mhm.
someone's going to come in and be like, hey, we're going to cover it, or we'll split it. We made a mistake, or,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
no. There was no compromise. There was no, hey, you were only in, so many stores, but we ordered enough for 1,200. I'm not even half of that. But it was so devastating to me that like
Mhm.
someone would treat another person that way, right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
big business, a big retailer would say, that's on you, man.
Mhm.
And not only
Mhm.
that, they had no qualms with it. They weren't like, hey, we're sorry.
Mhm.
This is the message was, this is the cost of doing business. I fell ill. I gave up. Like this happened from like March through July. And
Mhm.
then eventually, I'm like, I can't even pay my own bills. I'm
Mhm.
dead. I'm done. And so I go my, lay down. I remember laying down on the couch. It was a Thursday, and I just was like, sobbing. Because my family's on the line. Everything, my entire life, it's like all this stuff that I've done is coming to a crashing end because I didn't listen to other people and
Mhm.
say that said, hey, you shouldn't do this, or it doesn't work that way, or maybe don't. So all these things were coming back at me, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pray.
Mhm.
That was the only thing I need to do, is just ask God for direction.
Mhm.
And the next day, I woke up. I'm hiding all of this, Nate. Like, my kids don't see this. I'm happy go lucky. I shoulder it all. I bottle everything up. I go to a local food company, and, and I lay everything out there. And had met with them before, and they always
Mhm.
believed in me. I'm like, I'm going to go where I think I'm valued, instead of fooling with this negotiation. And so I went and I said, hey, I have a lot of debt. I have no steam left. I just need a job. I just need to provide for my family. And you can have the business, you can have Arbo's cheese dip. I don't care if it's 100%. It's like, if you can just employ me, that's all I need. It would be
Mhm.
a blessing.
Mhm.
And during that conversation, the owner who I was speaking to, he goes, I want you to stand up. I'm not here to take advantage of you. I believe in you. You have an incredible product, incredible story. Like, this is not going to die here. You're going to keep your company. We'll buy out your investors. We'll help with the debt. We're going to set you free to go be you again. If you can promise us that you're going to recover and go and do what made you successful, they're like, we are all in. And so that happened in November last year. It has just changed. It changed everything. I mean,
Mhm.
like, I'm in debt. I'm in gratitude, indebted gratitude, whatever. I'm like, how can I pay this person this thing back?
Mhm.
And the way I do that is just go be incredibly successful. And so,
Mhm.
but what does that mean? It doesn't mean getting into every single retail store that I possibly can as fast as I can.
Yeah.
it's margin, it's growing where I'm going to be profitable. And for the
Mm-hmm.
first time in almost 5 years, we are finally profitable.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost a bad ending to a great story.
Yeah.
So the people I surround myself with, I think that was the only thing that saved me.
Wow. I'm curious how the systems that you use to evaluate these opportunities may have evolved over time. I get the sense that early on it was like, hey, you're a big brand retailer. I would like to be on your shelf. Yes, let's go. Right. But if one of these retailers were to rock up on your doorstep today with the same pitch, given all that you now know about how this can go wrong, how would you evaluate and look at that opportunity today? Like, what is the analysis that you would do to decide if that's a good fit for you?
I have something called a Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I have someone, a Charlie. So Charlie is a mentor of mine. He always has been. He
Mm-hmm.
worked in corporate with me.
Mm-hmm.
He retired and he wanted to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. He helped me so much. It didn't even, like, he wouldn't let me pay him. Right.
Wow.
So someone as simple as a Charlie, now he's not a simple person by any means, but it was that simple. It's like, I need someone who can say, Charlie, this is what they want it for. Can we do this? And Charlie goes, give me an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's looking at freight rates, averages. He's calling freight companies and saying, hey, what's this? And he has this math skill. I mean, maybe it's Excel. I don't know. But he's punching in all these numbers and he's like, listen, unless they're ordering this much, this
Mm-hmm.
cost, you have to say no. If they're willing to compromise on their margin, their markup, because they're
Mm-hmm.
saying they want it at a 5.99. If they're willing to go 6.99, this is how we can do this. And
Mm-hmm.
this is if we do the promos and all the other things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not me, Nate. It's not me that's like, hey, no, we can't do it. I'm with Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie, I don't know what I would do if I lost him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have to figure out what to do next. But I surround myself, like I said, with the people that care about me, care about the success of this, because my thing is like I want to repay or pay it forward one day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my goal. That giving back is the most important thing. My wife
Mm-hmm.
jokes and she's like, you ought to like start charging people for consulting because you do it all the time. And I said, I get it, could, but I've been given so much
Yeah.
and I can't take anyone's money for this. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
if they're veteran or not. It's like I have
Mm-hmm.
this passion and love for CPG, for food
Mm-hmm.
brands, or any product that is so deep
Yeah.
because you're doing it with passion, wanting to change or bring a solution and be successful. And it's like you
Mm-hmm.
were met with doom. You were met
Mm-hmm.
with doom.
Mm-hmm.
And from the very beginning, it's like you have a very steep hill to climb. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're not capable. It takes a lot of vulnerability. It takes um, willingness to learn and not
Mm-hmm.
being so in your own, you know, about what's right, what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It takes surrounding yourself with a lot of good people.
Yeah. You've had quite the journey here, haven't you? Hmm. Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question here. And by the way, we can edit the last 15, 20 seconds or so out.
Sure.
Um, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then the final piece I'll invite you to let people know where they can go if they want to learn more about you. So feel free to spiel off your website, your LinkedIn,
Okay.
whatever it is. And all of the links will be in the show notes, by the way. Wow, it's certainly been quite the voyage for you, Andrew. I'm curious as you look ahead over the next year or two, what are some of the biggest decisions and pieces of the business strategy that you're kind of contemplating and dealing with at the moment? I'm wondering, what do you think will be the most difficult decision you have to make in the next 12 months?
It sounds simple, creating like new flavors and new
Mm.
products.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear lies that I don't want to lose focus on where I started, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started with just this original yellow cheese dip. It's amazing. It's bold with spices and flavors, and it's got tomatoes and chilies. It's all blended in together. It's so smooth you can just eat it right
Mm-hmm.
out and dip anything in it. So I'm like, got a good product. Why not run with that? So I was told somewhere along the way you have to have three SKUs to get into big retail. So I created a spicier version, created a white queso blanco. I wanted it to taste like that Mexican restaurant fresh cheese dip, and I did. But constantly comparing your brand to others is a problem. Because I'm like, man, I look at some of these hot this sauces, and it's like they've got 20 different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many different flavors can you incorporate with cheese dip?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I can add on another one, but I'm afraid that if I focus on that, I haven't figured out the other three yet. We're growing. We're in the Southeast primarily, but we just added manufacturing on the West Coast. And that gave an opportunity to add a new flavor, whether it's hash chili or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest decision there is like, where am I going to focus my efforts? And do I do I do I have a decision point for California where it's like, hey, if it doesn't, reach this amount of sales in this much time, I cut it and I focus back. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a decision that I don't get to prepare for, maybe not prepare for, but I don't get to plan for. It's just going to happen. And maybe it's successful, and then that means we need to create a hatch chili version here in Memphis. But I think that's one of the biggest decisions I'm going to have to going forward. And if you would have asked me last year, anyone that gave me an opportunity to co-pack, I'd be like, let's go, let's do a Skittles flavor, let's do this. Like I would have just been so agreeable to
Mm-hmm.
anything. So I think the bottom line, it's like know yourself, know your product, know your brand, what made you successful, and don't sway from that.
Yeah.
I'm still working on my messaging. That's
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't think that ever changes. I see brands they rebrand all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we all are. If it makes you feel any better, I'm still
Yeah,
figuring that out too for my own business, and I think it's okay to keep evolving and growing. Like the more you learn, and the your customers change, the market changes, and I
yeah,
think it's important for brands to evolve and keep up with that. So I don't think you should feel bad about that. And
yeah,
listen, I am so grateful for you joining us today and coming on and sharing what has been, a roller coaster of a ride for you. You have clearly learned a lot and certainly given me new perspective on how to approach growing a business like this, steps into retail. And I really do believe that our audience is going to find this extremely valuable insights. Before I let you go here, Andrew, where should people go to learn more about you, either the company or you personally?
oh, awesome. So you can find pretty much everything on our website. It's arbosdip.com, ARBOS dip.com. You can actually order product to your house from the website or find us in stores like Kroger and Walmart, and we're looking at some other retailers in the next 3 to 6 months. So
Well, thank you again for joining us. That brings our episode to a close. And folks, we will see you next time. Take care.
thank you, Nate.
Thanks, Andrew.